What's good, everyone? Hope you guys had a great weekend. We're back, and let's talk Broderick Jones. Because he may be the most important player for this Steelers offense that no one is really talking about. And when I say no one, I'm probably talking more about from the outside looking in, like the national media, because they're talking about Aaron Rodgers. They're talking about DK Metcalf. They're talking about the big trades that we've made. Not Broderick Jones. And which is fair because talking about a left tackle, talking about an offensive lineman from a national media standpoint, isn't going to move the needle as much, isn't going to create the headlines, isn't going to be getting the clicks like Aaron Rodgers. But I will say, I think we have a gist. Steeler fans, Steeler media, local media. We have a gist of how important this year is for Broderick and how influential he's going to be on the Steelers offense. But maybe we're not even giving it the credit it deserves either. Because I think, man, Broderick Jones is going to be the catalyst for this offense reaching its full ceiling, which is an elite offense. I think when you have Aaron Rodgers, you have DK Metcalf, you have the tight ends that we got, you got the running back room that we got, you got the offensive line that we got, at least 4 out of the 5 positions I feel pretty good about. This ceiling is pretty damn high. I think it's to the point where we're competing with the best offenses. We're going toe-to-toe with the best offenses in the AFC. But Broderick Jones, if he's not playing good, that could neutralize a lot of the good stuff and the new additions that we made this offseason. Because if Rodgers ain't protected, it doesn't matter how spry Rodgers feels or, like where he's at from a health standpoint. And just if Rodgers is fully vintage Rodgers, we're not going to be able to see that to the fullest extent if he takes a snap and all of a sudden he's getting blasted 2 seconds into the play. That's not even a Rodgers thing. That's an any quarterback thing. You've seen Patrick Mahomes in his prime in some of these Super Bowls when he doesn't have an offensive line blocking for him. You've seen Tom Brady at the end of his New England career when he didn't have as good of an offensive line, as good of a weapons. He was neutralized. He wasn't like the same old Tom Brady. Everyone thought he was washed, but you got him a good team down in Tampa Bay and you saw what he was capable of. So, Rodgers needs that too here. As good as Aaron Rodgers may still be and as healthy as he may still be, he needs some help. Because he's definitely not as mobile as what he was in Green Bay. And a big part of that help is Broderick Jones playing the most important position on the offensive line, the quarterback's blind side, left tackle. We know how integral that is to an offense's success. And Broderick Jones is going to get his first crack as our starting left tackle since he was drafted. 3 years after he was drafted to be our franchise left tackle. Take that for what you will, because he's been over on the right side these last couple years, partly out of necessity, and maybe you could argue partly out of the Steelers misutilizing Broderick Jones. But now's the time, man. And we know Broderick's career up to this point, there's been up and downs. Rookie campaign, I thought was really solid when he had to step in for Chooks whenever we benched Chooks middle of the season. Finished the season strong. I thought he was good. I thought he was just flat out right, a good right tackle in his rookie year. But then last year happened, and he had to deal with some injuries in the preseason and kind of got benched. When Fautana became healthy week 2, we sat Broderick. Or no, we tried doing that thing where Broderick played like the first 2 series. We put Fautana in, then back to Broderick. That was a mess, but as soon as we reached halftime, Fautanu became our right tackle. And we were going to start him week 3, and he was going to be the starter rest of the regular season. But he got hurt. We had to put Broderick back into right. And his sophomore year definitely wasn't as good as his rookie year. A lot of ups and downs. I think early on was struggling way more than what it was in the second half of the season. I actually thought Broderick became the better tackle between him and Dan Moore over the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. Now, you could argue Dan Moore was going up against better players in some of those matchups down the stretch. But still, I actually thought Broderick finished the season admirably, but overall, it was a step backwards in his development. Now, he's going to left tackle, his rightful position, what he was drafted to be. And the hopes have been that he's going to be better. I mean, you got a couple years in the league under your belt. You have a ton of talent, and you're going back to your rightful spot. And seeing how Dan Moore played last year too, you're thinking to yourself, he's got to at least be as good as what Dan Moore was, right? There was a reason we let Dan Moore go. Not only did he struggle the second half of last year, but Tennessee paid him a ton of money. So it was not worth it for the Steelers to bring back Dan Moore. I don't think we misplayed the offseason and how we handled our offensive line and our tackle position by letting Dan Moore go and trying Broderick out over at left tackle. Because what else were you going to do? Like, were you going to draft another tackle in this, from at least the top end standpoint, a weak tackle class? You had the three guys go, Will Campbell, Membow, and Banks in the top 10. After that, it was a huge drop-off. So we weren't going to get anyone that you felt so much better than Broderick Jones playing left tackle this year in that first round. You weren't doing that. You drafted Broderick for a reason a couple years ago. First round, traded up to get him. So, like, this is it. This is like the make or break year. I don't know what else we could have done. Maybe we could have signed another guy as competition. But then, again, you got to ask yourself, why did we draft Broderick Jones if we're bringing in some journeyman veteran to compete with him? We drafted Broderick Jones to be our starting left tackle. I'm not saying the competition is bad or anything, but it's like sometimes you got to have faith. You got to hope that your investment pays off. And this is where we're at with Broderick. But going back to what we've seen from him thus far, it has been the ups and downs. And unfortunately, thus far in training camp, more ups and downs. Banged up again. And Friday Night Lights, probably his worst performance. He was getting cooked by all accounts. Now, he was limited still, didn't partake in full team activities, but whenever he was matched up against Highsmith and Herbig, Broderick was over. And some were saying it wasn't even close. And then these last couple of days, though, to Broderick's credit, he bounced back. We need consistency, though. We can't be having drastic swings of up and downs where one play, one series, one game, you're looking like you don't belong in the league. And then the next game, you look solid. Because that game where you don't look like you belong in the league is the game that Rodgers could get hurt and maybe sidelined for a month. We just need some sort of average, consistent play. Give us at least what Dan Moore has been giving us. Can you do that? It's tough when you see the inconsistency because at least Dan Moore was somewhat consistent. Now, again, last year, at the end of the season, honestly, that might have been Dan Moore's worst performance since his rookie year. It was concerning to say the least, and if he didn't have that second half stretch, I think we would have been seriously talking about potentially re-signing Dan Moore to give him another chance as our starting left tackle for 2025. But this is the type of stuff that you got to do as a franchise when you're making decisions about personnel. You got to let some guys go, and you got to give up other opportunities for unproven young guys to step up and prove their worth. And that's where we're at with Broderick Jones. It's just we're in a spot where he plays the most important position on the offensive line. He plays left tackle. And as much as we have all this other talent on offense, receiver, the rest of the offensive line, we have Aaron Rodgers, we have the running backs. If Broderick ain't blocking over on that left side on a consistent basis, both in pass protection and open up running lanes, it could really thwart what we're trying to do. It could be the difference of us being an average offense, because I think we do have a floor. I think this offense is just naturally going to have a floor, and we're not going to be stupid if Broderick's struggling. We're either going to replace him, we're going to figure out something or some way to help him out. If we're going to keep putting him out there, we'll have a guy chip in, block, double team, whatever it is, or we'll try to replace him. I don't think we're just going to allow for poor play out there. We're not going to be completely stupid about it. So there is a floor, but it's going to neutralize our potential if we're going to have potentially another tight end or another lineman in there to help Broderick Jones out, because that's one less eligible that we could be throwing out and getting open downfield for us. It's going to make our offense a little bit more predictable when you have a guy over there. So yeah, it would hurt what we're trying to do as an offense. It hurt us trying to be more explosive than what we have been the last 2 or 3 years. But if Broderick's playing good, I think the sky's the limit. Absolutely, the sky's the limit. Broderick, Sayamalu, Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, Troy Fautano. It's a good-ass offensive line if Broderick plays good. Because I think the other four, I don't really have many question marks or uncertainties with them. You could bring up with Sayamalu, does he take a step back? He's getting older. Troy Fautano, he's kind of unproven as well, but we got to see him coming cold off that injury in that Broncos game. Looked awesome. There's a reason why Tomlin put him in there, sight unseen, bench Broderick, even with Fautano having a little bit of a hiccup in his first preseason game. We have that much faith in him. And just from seeing the short period, the short time that we got with Fautano out there in the regular season, I have faith in him too. I say that maybe I'm naive, but he can't be worse than Broderick on the right side. Now, that's we got a weird situation here. I don't think Fautano is going to be worse than Broderick on the right side. In fact, I think he's going to be good. But I don't think Broderick should be worse than Dan Moore. But then you're hearing this stuff about Broderick in training camp, and it's a little concerning. Why I'm not pressing the panic button, though, is we've seen some of this stuff from Broderick before in training camp, in preseason games. And then, like in Broderick's rookie year, he actually, played good. I think last year, maybe you could attribute some of his poor play, at least early on, more to that injury. Broderick said it was an excuse, but we can be real. Like, injuries do affect things. If you're out there, you're out there. You got to perform to the best you can, and you got to be out there helping your team. But when talking about what the player is going to be going forward, you can attribute injury to things that happened in the past and say, all right, now he's going to be healthy. We can expect better play. We can expect better performance. Almost like with Aaron Rodgers. We're talking about him coming off the Achilles, knocking off the rust. Took him a little bit in New York. Really started to kick things up last 10, 11 weeks of the season. So you say to yourself, okay, well, it wasn't the best version of Aaron Rodgers throughout the whole 2024 regular season, but now he's another year removed from the Achilles. Fair to expect that he'll be healthier, and him being healthier is going to affect his play in a positive way. So same with Broderick. If Broderick's healthy, but he's not healthy. He's not healthy right now. And we're seeing some bad moments in training camp. That can really affect things, man. It really can. And it's unfortunate. But Broderick plays good, and I think for me the final verdict is I think he is, overall, he's going to give us above average play through the season. But there still might be struggles. There still might be some bad things that happen, and particularly early on. And how much is that going to affect the long-term success for this offense? Because if Rodgers gets hurt early on, that could be something that affects him going late into the season. You saw that with Ben in his finals in 2021. Got rocked in that Week 2 Raiders game. I feel like that affected him rest of the season. Because we saw Ben in preseason. We saw him in Week 1 of that 2021 season. Looked spry as hell. But then he gets sacked 9 times in that Raiders game, Week 2. Has to deal with some type of hip injury. And, yeah, that could affect the mobility. That could affect some things. Still gutted it out. Carried that team to the playoffs. If you know, you know. Hashtag the sabotage. But, yeah, we don't want that. Just because you had to deal with it in the past, it's not like you want to be dealing with that now when you have another Hall of Fame quarterback in the late stages of his career. We don't want that. We want to protect Aaron Rodgers. That's going to be a key part of this offensive success, and Broderick Jones is a key cog in that, playing the left tackle spot. But yeah, I don't know if I have anything else. I just wanted to talk Broderick Jones, honestly, because that was just kind of on my mind after seeing some of the reports that came out of training camp over the weekend, and Broderick's name was being brought up. I'm also seeing Mark Robinson's playing fullback, which actually kind of is a good idea. We tried it with Kendrick Green in the past. didn't work out. But like Mark Robinson used to play running back in college, and then he goes to Ole Miss, switches to linebacker. I could see it. I mean, we had a Pro Bowler do the same thing in Rosie Nix, where he was linebacker in college, or he was I think, wasn't he defensive line at Kent State? Comes to the pros, gets switched to linebacker, gets cut by the Falcons. We bring him in after his rookie year, sign him to some sort of temporary contract, and we flip him over to fullback. He becomes a Pro Bowl special teamer, Pro Bowl fullback for us for like 4 or 5 seasons. So, like, Mark Robinson, I still like him at linebacker as one of our depth guys, but a couple plays at fullback, I don't think that hurts. We're talking about getting more creative. We're talking about doing these 4 tight end formations and Arthur Smith being in his bag. Why not Mark Robinson at fullback? Way more athletic than Kendrick Green. More familiar with that side of the ball than Kendrick Green. Or, well, not saying that side of the ball. That position, specifically running back, the backfield, Mark Robinson did that in college. I don't think – I could be wrong. Maybe Kendrick Green was a running back or something in high school. Maybe I'm missing that aspect of his game or his history. But I'm not opposed to it. I think it's actually not a bad idea. Patriots did shit like that in the past with like Mike Vrabel, flip him on offense. Texans did it, remember, with J.J. Watt. I don't know. I don't think it was specifically fullback, but they put him at tight end and goal line scenarios, and it kind of worked out. I actually like the Mark Robinson idea at fullback. It's not like he's getting crazy amount of snaps at linebacker with the guys in front of him. In fact, yeah, I think he could be a better fullback than some of the guys that we've had in the past, like Derek Watt. He could be a Rosie Nix type of player for us. Anything else in terms of training camp? We got some injuries. I saw JPJ was banged up. Corey Trice banged up again. Darnell Washington was cooking. He was winning his one-on-one matchups. I think he was like undefeated against Herbig, Highsmith, the opposite of Broderick Jones, which got some people saying like, oh man, if Broderick keeps struggling, maybe we put Darnell Washington at left tackle. That's definitely not happening this year. I think the best you're going to get is if Broderick Jones is struggling, you're just going to have Darnell or another tight end helping on that side of the ball. But maybe long term, the example being used is Al Villanueva. He was a former tight end, and he transitioned and became a Pro Bowl left tackle. Now, we had Mike Munchak coaching the offensive line at that time. We don't have Mike Munchak. Pat Meyer, he's, I would say at this point, mid. He's an average offensive line coach. Mike Munchak, awesome offensive line coach. So I think that's another difference in those situations too. I would have more faith in Darnell transitioning to left tackle if we had a Mike Munchak. Defense has been dominated. Defense has been looking really good. Really, really good. DK Metcalf even said that this is one of, if not the best defense he's gone up against in his career. And this is only training camp. Meanwhile, DK has played 6 years in the league and has gone up against a handful of good defenses in his time, naturally. So I think that's saying something. You're seeing them dominate in these 7 shots. Yesterday they won 12-2. They did 2 7-shots period, and of the 14, the defense won 12. So you're liking that. I think it's natural to see this offense have its struggles with all the new pieces and trying to gel. And if the defense is going to be as good as what they're being billed right now, it's a good test for the offense. So it should be easier once the games come around if the Steelers can actually be one of the best defenses in the league with a Jalen Ramsey, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Darius Slay, and Patrick Queen being out there, right? Madden rated us the top defense in the league, 91 overall. You're seeing actually a lot of these preseason rankings and power rankings. Like Madden's rating us pretty highly. I'm seeing there was a Fox Sports that had us top 7 or top 8 rosters in the league. Like, people are starting to buy into the Steelers. Because, again, when you just look at the roster, you look at the moves we made, there's no reason why we can't go toe-to-toe with anyone in the league. Certain uncertainties have to become certain. Certain things have to come through full fruition, and Broderick Jones is one of those things that I just talked about. Aaron Rodgers got to be some version of Aaron Rodgers, and then the defense got to be at least top 10. Those things happen, which none of them are like that far of a stretch. We're in it. Every team's got their little question marks. Now, it helps for teams that have franchise quarterbacks in their prime because they can mask a lot of other things. You're feeling pretty good if you got a Josh Allen, you got a Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Herbert. Feeling good. Because, like, no matter what question marks you have at receiver or, like, on the offensive line or on the defense, it's like, as long as those dudes play to franchise quarterback level caliber, you're going to have a chance. And that's what we had for 18 years in Big Ben. With Rodgers, just given the age, given how these last couple years played out for him, fair to have some question marks, but again, it's not outside of the realm of possibility for him to return to top 10. Like, we're going to be 2-3 weeks into the season, and Rodgers could very well have, a 7 or 8 touchdown to interception ratio, and we're 2-1 or 3-0. And you're just like, okay, he's back. We're looking good. Broderick Jones could be above average once the regular season comes around. Not out of the realm of possibility, right? He's had his lackluster off seasons, lackluster preseason games in the past, and then plays good when the regular season comes around. I think I already brought up that example with his rookie year. And then the defense, there's just so much talent on defense. Like, I don't really have to spell out how our defense could potentially be top 10 or top 5. It's just we stay healthy and dudes play up to their name. That's not that complicated either. But that's it for today's show. I don't think I got anything else I really want to go over. Nah, that's about it. Stay tuned for tomorrow, though. Because today Steelers were off. Going to be another practice tomorrow. Training camp's going to be picking back up. And then we got the preseason game Saturday. Stay tuned for what I'm going to be doing for that. Yeah, I'll keep you updated. But that's it for today's show. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Peace.